Something is happening. Something is happening with this planetary system. Whatever it is that I need to do here, I need to do it now.
Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Gentlemen, like.
Pop culture yearbook, yeah, that's our system.
Yeah. Alright, let's go ahead and get into this. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I'm Zidbar2. Joining me today for fan film reviews is not Rasco of Rasco's Modern Life, but instead is the real Manos of the real Manos, a.k.a. Justin Cristelli.
Hi, I'm Justin Cristelli, aka the real Manos.
Yay, yay. So, as I mentioned in last week's episode of Geeky Gentlemen, Rasco is taking a hiatus from the show for a while to work on a personal project. And so Manos has graciously agreed to step in and fill his shoes here on the fan film reviews. And Manos has picked the fan film we're reviewing today. Manos, what are we reviewing today?
Well, when you asked me to do this, this was literally the first thing that popped in my head. It is Metroid, The Sky Calls, which is, I think, maybe a year or two old now, or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's like 2 years or something.
At this point, by Sky Films, and yeah, it was the first one. Rainfall Films, excuse me. Yeah, it was the first one I definitely wanted to do, because I remember when it first came out, and I watched it quite a few times. So yeah, if this was something you hadn't already covered, I definitely wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I remember seeing this when it first came out. I remember watching it just once, because Rainfall Films is a fan film creator that I know of because they did a really famous Wonder Woman fan film as well. That's just like basically the same kind of thing. It's about 10 minutes of just Wonder Woman doing her thing, and that got really crazy popular. So I remember seeing this before, and I never talked about it because, and this is going to be awkward for me because I have never played a Metroid game. Like you know how most people have played like a couple seconds at least of a video game at some point? I've never once picked up a Nintendo controller and played Metroid unless we count Super Smash Bros., which I don't think is allowed.
Well, I have some good news for you in this conversation. I have never, ever played Metroid.
Oh, good. So this will be really like a well-rounded, knowledgeable discussion about Metroid then.
Yeah. I've said time and time again, I'm not a gamer. I have literally no time for, like, games. I don't know how people do it. Like, oh, yeah, I beat the game in, just roughly, 86 hours and, just, Like, when the fuck do you have any time to do that shit? I don't understand. I mean, I barely have enough time to watch Bob's Burgers, which is like 20 minutes. So there are a number of characters over the years, though, that I think are interesting. And like if I see them pop up in adaptations or something, I'll definitely check them out because. Like Metroid is one of those characters, Lara Croft, the Overwatch characters, that I'll think, yeah, they're really cool. Too bad I'm not a gamer. I can definitely see myself drawn to them as characters. I guess, man, like one of the few, characters that, don't fit into this is Chun-Li. I played thousands of hours of Street Fighter 2, and she was always my character. So that's kind of, I often I also
Hello?
character like I play. Hello, are you still there?
You cut out just a little bit, but I think I got the gist of it.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, so it's
so,
it's going to be weird to talk about this then because neither of us are Metroid fans, but just
no, not at all.
generally speaking, how do you feel they did at selling Metroid to just anybody, whether or not you know anything about Samus?
And that's something I think is kind of an important area of discussion here is when you adapt something, in this case, video games, and video games have been notoriously bad at being adapted. When you do this, you are taking something and creating something obviously for the fans, but you're also reaching out to a general public that maybe doesn't play that game or doesn't even play games, may have kind of some general idea. What you should try to do first is make a good film, while at the same time, try and like be as genuine as you can to the original source material. And I only know like very, very basic stuff about Metroid. I know the character. I know she is supposedly trained and raised, I guess, and received her armor from this ancient race or something like that, and they're supposed to be gone, and she fights bad guys, and that's kind of it. That's kind of all I know.
I know that she's a bounty hunter. That is
okay.
That is everything I know about Samus, is that she is a bounty hunter, and that she's a girl, and that was like a big deal back in the day.
Oh yeah, because I think they made the reveal of her gender in I think the second or third game.
No, it's at the end of the very first game. I know that.
Oh, it is at the end of the first game. Okay.
Yeah. So, all right. So, like the way in which they approach this, I thought was really, really interesting because visually they take a lot of cues from really famous sci-fi films that were like famous when the first game came out. So, like you got a lot of nods to like Alien and to 2001 in here, and I thought that was really, really cool to see and just show it like visualized. This is what a Samus movie could be like.
Yes, that's I think was the smart move, is that it it used visual storytelling. It didn't try to do like Doom, which is like, oh, it looks like the game. Too bad the movie sucks. But, hey, he's pointing like at the camera, like like in the game. Like, no, you gotta let that shit go because video games and film are very different mediums, and I know people try to think of them as the same type. Like, if it works here because you can see it, then it works here because it's also film and you can see it. But they're very different. They have very different goals. And I loved how striking this was. It did use 2001 and Stanley Kubrick type of framing, especially for the spaceship framing devices at the beginning and end. Of course, like the wormhole sequence. And just this general sense of awe. And that's one of the things I really liked about it, is that she's on the search for, I presume, is the original alien race. And she's getting a signal from a planet that's supposed to be dead. She goes to investigate it. And I love how like vast and epic and creepy space is. And that's something I don't see enough in sci-fi. Certainly not into kind of like Star Wars type adventure stuff, even Star Trek, and that's something I really have always taken away from Kubrick's 2001 and a couple other films that do that. There's something just so huge about space, and just simple shots of like a space craft approaching a planet, and I think that along with the music and the framing, I think does really well. I also like the what I loved is, I know these guys don't have the same budget as like Batman versus Superman or anything like that, so I thought this film looked beautiful. And
I completely agree. Before we get too far away from the stuff that inspired it, I did want to bring up one point though.
Sure.
The writer of the God of War series has given several interviews over the years because, you know, how the Hollywood machine works. They talk about, oh, we're going to make a movie out of this. And so anytime someone's in an interview, they ask this guy, so what's the status of that God of War movie, you know, 13 years later? And, like, the point he always makes is, it'd be great to do it, but I think the reason a lot of video game movies don't work is because video games are so inspired by film, and so when you see it on film again, it feels too much like a retread. And so what I thought this did in a really interesting way is it had the visual nods and stuff, and it certainly felt very inspired by Kubrick and Ridley Scott with Alien. But it also did enough differently and highlighted enough about what it was that it really worked. Because, like, that's where I feel like things get in trouble is, you know, the Super Mario Brothers movie is anything but a Super Mario Brothers movie, right?
Correct.
Like, so many of these video game movies, it doesn't even feel like an iota like the game. Whereas this, it actually, you know, she morphs into a frickin' ball, and it's the coolest part of the damn movie. And so that was just...
It is
just really great to see something embrace that, and I feel like this did a good job in bridging that gap.
I loved how it telegraphed that, because she is getting a visual and she's getting all set, and it reads Morph Ball activated. So what I like so much about that is I know fans are all excited and want to see the Morph Ball in any kind of version that's done with this property. So that's like, I love how it's like telegraphed first, like, hey, we're gonna do the Morph Ball.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Get ready for the Morph Ball. Here it comes.
Yeah, that's really cool. But you were transitioning us to the visual look of this, and one thing I mean, I will say that I liked this for its visuals. I didn't really care for its story because I feel like I'm too alienated from it, but because I don't know the world of Metron. But, like, the visuals for this I found really, really compelling. And I think the thing that they did the best is I have no doubt in my mind that 90% of this was shot on a blue screen.
Oh, yeah.
But I am willing to bet that some of it was shot on a set or on different sets. And I can't tell you what, because they do something that's really, really subtle and really, really brilliant in that a lot of times CG looks too clean, it's too perfect because of the way a computer renders something. So they put this nice static noise effect just over everything, and it just makes it gives it so much depth. It makes it feel so much realer, which is great.
That's a good point. It all comes sometimes down to details. And I love that when she's in the armor, they go with the obvious Iron Man armor visual, so you can see right in into the helmet, so you can see her talk. There are some scenes where they go kind of minimalistic for the setting, because it's all focused on her and it's dark and light. It's like, that's a good way to avoid like having to build a whole, you know, $200 million set, or, you know, have to render everything. Which almost costs as much these days, I guess. I don't know. Or at least you run the risk of looking cheap. So I think they very wisely... That's something I wish big budget Hollywood films would learn more about, is, you know, saving money.
Yeah, the idea that it's a budget, that doesn't mean you have to use all of it.
Yeah, like, okay, we don't have to build this whole giant thing if all we need, you know, they're like Bruce Timm's Batman series would do this sometimes. They could draw whatever they want, but they will, like, to avoid like having to animate every single thing, they'll focus on what's needed to be. Like, there were several scenes in some of the early episodes where it'll just be a light on a desk and a guy. That's all you need. That's all they need to tell you in this scene. And that's what they did in a couple shots in this film. And I hope someday a big budget studio will figure that out. Maybe that has something to do with the fact that this is obviously a small budget studio with small group of people working instead of like a billion people with their own ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that plays a part into it. Is you in short films, particularly with sci-fi short films, you just have to be more minimalistic. You have to know what you need and find the most effective way to visualize it, as opposed to just going all out, going crazy with things. So it was really impressive to see just how economical this was, but is still able to be just visually awe-inspiring. Like, we get some shots of the exterior planets as they line up toward the end, but the thing that like really lets you know that they're lined up is just kind of like a crummy little 3D model that's part of her ship readout. And to me, that's the most effective way to do that. Like, I almost didn't need the wider shot, but at that point it was just spectacle, and it really paid off in that way.
I would agree. So yeah, I love that. I agree. I also love that it was kind of the old 70s Star Wars crappy digital effect.
Yeah, because I mean, if you just have like computers working in real time, they're going to do it in why would anything be 2D anymore? It'd be in 3D models all the time. It's just your computer would be complex enough to visually render 3D models, even if it's just a wireframe, at real time rate, and that's kind of impressive. One thing I want to talk about before we transition out of the visual aspect of this is I said the morph ball is my favorite thing, and I really, really liked it. What I liked about it was the lighting effect, that trail that comes off of it.
Yeah, that's actually a good point.
I am a sucker for glowy things. I just anytime, like, obviously I love lightsabers because it's a glowy sword. It's cool. So I'm a huge sucker for glowy things, and I can almost always just go with it. Predator's blood, awesome. It glows.
It's true. It always works. It's one of those can't fails. Like you see it a billion times. It's like, oh, so what? It's cool. It's always cool.
Yeah. I guess it's just that like lizard brain, like ooh, glowy thing. But it totally works for me. All right, so I want to transition to the story of this, because I'm not sure if this is like one of those things where you have to be a Metroid fan to get it, or it just like is just really, really vague on purpose.
I think it might be it might help. I'll be honest with you. I do get the feeling that if I was a Metroid fan and ate up everything in the franchise, I would have probably known backwards and forwards, like, oh, this means this. That's very clever. But I'm not. So I do get the sense, I do get the feeling that it's being done in a loving tribute.
Mm-hmm.
I do think what's cool about it is that it's giving me intended mystery where it's not really trying to answer all my questions. It's like a 12-minute film, so obviously being able to, or if it tried, it would be very rushed feeling. So I think what I like about it is that it gives me enough. It gives me a sense of mystery and wonder. Like, it'd be cool if I could see the further adventure of this. Because I do feel like it's almost a chapter in a larger story.
Yeah, I'd agree
which
with
I
that.
think is probably what. Where it'd be like a quest to find out where these people have gone, and it doesn't really totally, she doesn't find like a whole group of aliens waving, going, "Oh, hey, Seamus." Oh,
Seamus.
Seamus. Yeah. Seamus.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. For me, like, the first time I watched this, for this review, not counting when I saw it when I think it first came out, first time I watched this for this review, I was like, it's cool, but I don't really care for it that much. I don't think it's really well written or like written at all. It feels like they just had an idea for a bunch of cool visuals. But then going back through it a second time, I realized that it's actually written very, very carefully. Like, she has that whole speech she gives in the beginning about, like, why she's there. It's kind of like the whole captain's log thing. And I really like that when we get the Chozo communicating with her, they're using that video. And so literally everything she says is everything that needed to be said for them to talk to her. I think that is a really, really cool... it's something we see in sci-fi a lot, but it never loses its kind of coolness.
Yeah, because it's always like, oh, yeah, that speech. Much like the lightsaber kind of effect, it just never loses its luster.
Yeah.
Oh.
I see what you did there. I liked it. I really like that. It's very impressive. I guess I have such a thing for pointed dialogue. I really like pointed, very purposeful dialogue where clearly the writer thought through every single word as part of the thing. That's why I like Kieran Gillen's Darth Vader run and Marvel Comics. I really like, you and I disagree about this, but like Brian Azzarello's Wonder Woman run, I love the dialogue in that because it's just so sharp. And so I guess I really have a thing for very pointed, very purposeful dialogue. And so something that's kind of won me over on this, the more I think about it, is how impressive it is that you have something that serves so doubly like that. You have the exposition we as an audience get for what Samus is doing there, why she's on this mission, and then you also, within that, have everything you need for Samus to go on to the greater mission. I think that's really, really cool.
Exactly, and I love that there's a lot of visual storytelling in this, which invites you to think about it more and invites rewatching it, which is something I really enjoy. There's some filmmakers I enjoy who kind of invite that, where if it was something that was trying too hard with a little bit more forced dialogue, then I don't know, that it'd be running the chance of feeling kind of like shallow, and you really don't need to watch it again. It's like, yeah, okay, I got the Tomb Raider movie, I understand it, but something that kind of like doesn't feed you all the details, and you have to kind of like ruminate on it and even rewatch it to kind of like really feel like see what you feel like about it. And I enjoy that, and I sometimes don't get that enough, especially in a lot of like mainstream sci-fi and action and horror.
No, I agree. And so there's a lot to this. I like that they want to tell a visual story with minimal dialogue. They communicate so much just through the readouts on the screen, but you don't even need those because so much of it's just obviously what's going on based on the context of the scenes. And that is really telling because they are trying to pull from Kubrick and Ridley Scott the most. And that's just really, really impressive that you're able to do something in tribute, in reverence to those guys, and you're able to do it the way they do it. That's just... Kubrick loved tricks like that, to just try to tell the story almost entirely through the camera and barely even use the actors if he could, as far as their voices go. And this just, I feel, does a really good job of kind of capturing that tone. Admittedly, it's got a little bit of an advantage in that it's only about 10, 11 minutes. So it's able to get away with that more.
Yeah, and it uses its time really economically. It doesn't feel like any time is wasted. It doesn't feel like there's any padding. There's no time for padding. I've seen shorts that feel like they're padded. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? You have 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why are you wasting your time? This doesn't do any of that. There doesn't feel like a second wasted.
I agree. The other thing I wanted to make sure we talked about was the actress that's playing Samus, because for me, I think she is the weakest part about this. The actress's name is, I think, Jessica Chobot or something like that. And I looked in the description, and she's apparently like one of the hosts on the Nerdist channel. And I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense then, because so much of the delivery here and the tone of just how she's using her voice and stuff felt really, really flat to me.
I would agree with that. It did feel stiff, or if you even want to be generous, felt almost stoic.
Mm-hmm.
Where, I've seen actors and actresses do a lot of acting with their faces. I was actually having this conversation the other day with somebody about some a friend of mine was asking me about the difference between film actors and stage actors, and he was like confused, like what's a big difference? And I was like film actors are more introverted and stage actors are a little more extroverted, and they can even act and project when they're not even saying anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when Ian McKellen or like Gillian Anderson gets out, you know, in a scene, not even saying anything, their faces like reach out to you. And people who are either film actors or, in the case of Chabot's Pesh, I don't know how much film training she has, but it's more of like,
yeah, because like she doesn't feel
TV,
like an actress to me. She feels like a screen personality, you know?
Yeah, exactly, a TV host, which, you know, that's a completely different set of skills.
Mm-hmm.
There are, I wouldn't go so far as to call her, wooden. I wouldn't go so far. I do sense life in her, but not as much as I think could have, you know, contribute to a little better experience on the film.
Yeah, for me, it's just like, not only does she play it kind of like flat to me, but also just tonally, I feel like the way she's portraying the character just doesn't feel right. And again, I don't know anything about Samus, so I could be completely wrong here, but other things that I've seen with her seems to always portray her as like really, you know, kind of confident, what's the word I want? Extroverted personality.
Yeah.
Not like a Han Solo type, but, you know, more toward that end of the spectrum.
Well, yeah.
Than
Well, you don't even need to be like, you know, hey, I'm a goofy badass to, you know, have a personality.
Mm-hmm.
You can. Oh,
well, like you mentioned Lara Croft.
There's a nice difference.
You mentioned Lara Croft earlier, and that's the way I've often seen and thought about Samus. And again, I'm not a fan of the franchise, so I can't really say here. To be fair, she's mostly silent through some of her early games. I know, just given the time. So it's reasonable.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's nothing to work with personality-wise if you look at the first couple of games.
Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
A little image that shoots people.
Hey, to be fair, Sonic was a little image that shot people, but he had a personality.
He has a personality. Well, he's a big cartoony-looking,
but
Warner Brothers kind of character.
Yeah, but point being, though, like, the way I've always seen Samus portrayed is always, like, a much more exuberant kind of personality. And this just, a lot of the scenes, she's, like, so flat. Like when she's in the dark alone and kind of like freaking out, like hyperventilating a little bit, that just totally didn't feel right for this character to me. She seemed like way too she seemed to portray it, or maybe it's just written way too frightened, whereas to me it should be, I think, more experienced than this.
Yeah, I just felt she could have just breathed a little bit more life into it. Even when you're not talking, you're still acting. And I think she is. I think she is, but I don't think it's as strong as, you know. It's really funny. Like, there's I know they probably, you know, are into this little niche group, so she's probably like, you know, part of the, you know, that kind of troop of people. So I could just think of like other people who could probably do that part a little bit better. Like,
yeah.
Oh man, I can't remember her name. I was gonna probably reference somebody else that could have done better, but now I can't remember her name. Damn.
Yeah, that's cool. You know, that's just something I noticed with some of these like fan films that get a little bit bigger. Alex and I, a number of months ago, did an episode on the first episode of Star Trek Continues, the fan series, which is like, you know, really big budget for a fan series and tries to recreate the feel of the original series of Star Trek and all that stuff. But they get Grant Imahara from Mythbusters to play Mr. Sulu, and it's Grant Imahara. He's there to lend like some exposure to this, but at the same time, then I don't want to see you do anything with Mr. Sulu. I feel like Jessica Chobot is here because of her connection to Nerdist to help this thing be marketed a little bit better, to help it get more recognition. And from what I can tell, Rainfall Films hasn't done any fan productions since this, so it probably helped them to get enough recognition, do some like professional work, which is great. But just as a fan film, I always find that choice questionable. Like, I don't have a problem with someone who's, you know, a celebrity in some other regard playing a character in a fan film, but to me the requirement needs to be that they can actually play the character.
Yeah, there are like a growing number of, I guess, geek culture personalities. You know, mostly through the internet, really. You know, TV hosts, the Nerdist, for instance, like that. Yeah, that have been popping up. That, you know, they're like basically kind of like the geek culture equivalent of, you know, Entertainment Tonight hosts.
Yeah. And like, you know, I would be fine with Ryan Seacrest showing up in a superhero movie, but I don't want Ryan Seacrest playing Batman, you know? I just don't.
True. Oh, I did remember finally. I was thinking like Whitney Moore might have been more interesting as this character, because Whitney Moore is probably best known, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, for being in the Birdemic movies. And I've been following her on Twitter, and she hosts. She's done some Marvel hosting videos, and she's done some short films and stuff like that. She's actually an entertaining, strong personality.
Okay.
And when you watch Birdemic 2, she's actually so over it. It's hilarious. Like, there are obvious moments and facial reactions she has that were not written. So I don't know. I think she might have been maybe a stronger choice for that. And she's also, I don't know. I haven't seen Jessica Chobot in real life, so I don't know if like her hair is really blonde.
It's not.
Or that's obvious a wig.
Yeah.
Even if she is a blonde, that was still a wig. I don't know if that was a good choice to go with visually or not, but because I kept thinking all the time, like, hey, that's a wig.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, it looks like the character, but you know, I don't know, maybe
it looks like a really good cosplay. Is the problem? It doesn't. And you lose some of that immersion. So I don't know.
It does, although you have to like. I try not to. I've seen some other fan films, and when I do see that kind of like cosplay feel, I try to not be too hard on it, because essentially, fan films are a cosplay. They're a filmed cosplay. So it is a celebration. So, you know, I try to like, you know, kind of like be a little bit light on that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd agree with you.
So I'm kind of 50-50 on her performance, really. I think it's okay, but not particularly strong.
I think it's serviceable, and I ultimately feel like it's just the weakest part about something that is otherwise very good, you know? So it's the easiest part to hone in on exactly what is the problem and what particularly about it is causing this problem.
Correct.
Okay, did you have anything else you want to talk about, or do you want to move on to ratings?
No, I think I'm done, except for I really dug the little warning tab at the end of the film after the credits.
Nice.
I thought that was a cute little touch.
Cool. All right, let's go ahead and go on to rating. I'm going to give this 4 out of 5 glowy trails from a morph ball.
I'm going to also give it 4 out of 5 bones from 2001.
Nice. All right. Well, next week, folks, we'll be talking about what, like, I keep getting this, and we keep getting older and older here. Next week, we're going to talk about the oldest fan film we've ever discussed, which is Silver Surfer 1994. So,
wow.
Please join us for that. I hope to see y'all there. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm the Realist.
And we are your Geeky Gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.